Hello friends, welcome back to this video series on saluting women in history. This video will concentrate on the period between the 18th century to the latter part of 19th century India, and it is a fact that during this period our country has gone into the clutches of the British colonialism. So, what is colonialism? Yes, it is considered to be a traumatizing experience for the sons of the soil since they get exploited in the hands of the colonizers. As an impact, they suffered poverty, malnutrition, disease, cultural upheaval, economic exploitation, political disadvantage, and systematic programs aimed at creating a sense of social and racial inferiority. Colonization reached the Indian subcontinent first through the Portuguese, then the French, and most successfully through the British. Thus, through the 18th century, India was progressively conquered by the East India Company, a violent and an aggressively greedy enterprise supported by the British Crown. It is a fact that before the advent of colonial rule, our country was self-sufficient and economy was well flourishing. But after the establishment of British colonial rule, India became the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, and they regimented India's manpower as the backbone of their military power. Shashi Tharoor, in his work An Era of Darkness, provides us with a devastating portrait of how the British decimated the Indian economy through the 18th to the mid of 20th century India. He states that in 1700, India was the world's richest country, according for some 27% of global GDP. But in 1947, when India achieved its independence, it had been reduced to one of the world's poorest countries with just over 3% of global GDP. As British colonialism stretched its hand to annex Indian territories, it met with much resistance from within our country. Looking back into the historical records, during the 18th century, many valiant male rulers of India such as Tipu Sultan, Palashi Raja, Pulithevar, Veerapandiya Kattabomman, Marudu brothers, and many more began to engage in several wars and made sacrifices in order to save the motherland from the clutches of the foreign invaders. In addition, India is no stranger to warrior women who ruled or even fought when the need to defend arose. Hence, Indian history also has its fair share of queens who were especially the rulers of that particular region and fought for their queendom's independence. Not just with few prominent women warriors such as Rani Velu Nachiyar, Kittur Rani Chanama, Rani Lakshmibhai, and Begum Hazrat Mahal, there were dozens of women who rose up to colonialism and participated in active fighting against the British. But their stories are largely unrecorded, devoid of references to such courageous episodes of lesser known female warriors of remote villages and their ultimate sacrifices. Our history will be incomplete. Therefore, this video will throw light on most of them who fought valorously against the British colonialists in India. Let us now look into them one by one in a chronological order. Veera Mangai Velu Nachiyar. She was the queen of Shivaganga Kingdom in Tamil Nadu and is popularly regarded as India's Joan of Arc. Her parents raised the princess as a boy who was trained in using war match weapons. She was also trained in archery, horse riding, silambam, and in martial arts such as Valari. Velu Nachiyar was also a scholar in her own right and had command over several languages including English, French, and Urdu. She married Muthu Vaduganadhar Udayadevar, who became the king of Sivagangai in 1750 and had a daughter named Vellachi. The British East India Company's forces marched towards Sivagangai under Colonel Smith during 1772, and in the Kalayar Koil War, Velu Nachiyar's husband was killed and she was forced to flee her kingdom with her daughter. Gopala Nayakar provided her with safe haven at Virupachi in Dindigul, and she lived there for 8 years, where she met Hyder Ali, the then ruler of Mysore. He was highly impressed with her courage and perseverance, which led her for the unwavering support from him, who pledged to be her ally in her fight against the British forces. Velu Nachiyar was invited by Hyder Ali to stay at the Dindigul fort, where she was respected like the queen that she was, and also provided her with a monthly financial support for maintaining her infantry and cavalry troops. All these very much helped her to assemble a powerful army in order to drive away the British. According to the historical sources, Rani Velu Nachiyar is regarded as the first queen who fought against the British colonial power in India during the latter half of the 18th century, which is about 77 years before the First War of Independence in 1857. She fought bravely against the British colonial power and defeated them in a brilliantly formulated alliance in 1780, and her intelligence gathering agents found out where the British had stored their ammunitions. Popularly known as Veera Mangai, meaning brave woman, she also devised the first recorded suicide bombing in history with her commander-in-chief, Queely, in order to destroy the storage of British ammunitions. Queely gallantly volunteered to carry out the suicide mission and doused herself in ghee and set herself on fire before jumping into the ammunition store, destroying every last bit of it. It is important to note here that Udayal, a close associate of the Queen, too died in the battle against the British while blowing up their arsenal in another suicide attack. According to the historical sources, it is stated that in memory of Udayal, the Queen built an all-women army and named after her as Udayal Padai. Rani Velu Nachiyar ruled over the kingdom of Sivagangai for a decade after her victory over the British, and then made her daughter Vellachi as the successor to the throne. She constructed a mosque at Sarangani in order to express her gratitude to Hyder Ali for his immense and timely help, and further maintained friendly relations with Tipu Sultan, Hyder Ali's son, and loved him like a brother. The 66-year-old valiant queen passed away in 1796 in her beloved kingdom, Sivagangai. Her legacy has been memorialized when the Government of India released a stamp on 31st December 2008 in her remembrance. The Veera Mangai Velu Nachiyar Memorial was inaugurated in Sivagangai on 18th July 2014 by the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. In addition, a 6-feet bronze statue of the Queen was also erected, and it was announced that 3rd January would be celebrated as the birth anniversary of the undaunted Queen who shattered gender roles as early as 18th century. Rani Shironmani Chuar. She was the queen of the Chuar, meaning the tribal farmers, and led the first revolt of tribal farmers against the British in 1798 from the Mylapore district of West Bengal. She refused to pay revenue to the British East India Company and proclaimed that whoever dared to come to ask for money from them would not leave the village alive. Actually speaking, the center of the revolt was Birbhum against the Zamindar, who looked down upon the tribal farmers, which resulted in an armed rebellion, and they destroyed the papers that said that the Zamindar was the owner of the land. The tribal farmers also built a fort from where an attack was planned on Midnapur in March 1798. However, a local loyalist of the British spread rumors that a large army was about to descend under the leadership of Rani Shironmani. Therefore, in the month of April 1798, the British attacked and captured the Chuar forts. The Rani was arrested, but the retaliation by the rebels was immediate, and they laid siege to the British in the fort and starved them of food provisions. The British were left with the choice but to give up, and in a diplomatic move had returned land to the tribals, who were ready to fight to the end under the leadership of the Rani Shironmani. Thus ended the hostility between the Rani Shironmani and the British East India Company. Kittur Rani Chanama. She was a well-known queen of the Nayaka kingdom of Kittur, which was under the control of the Maharaja of Mysore. From a very young age, she received training in sword fighting, archery and horse riding and got private lessons at home. Rani Chanama became the queen of Kittur through her marriage to Raja Mallas Raja and had a son by him. But unfortunately, both of them did not survive and she was left with the kingdom of Kittur with an uphill task to save it from the British. She adopted Shivalingappa and made him the successor to the throne, which irked the East India Company, who ordered his expulsion on the pretext of the doctrine of lapse. Therefore, Rani Chanama decided to take charge and rallied together with her trusted men such as Amattur Balappa in order to fight against the British during October 1824. As a conclusion of this war, British forces lost heavily and John Thackeray, the then collector and political agent, was killed in the war and the remaining officials and soldiers were imprisoned. The British East India Company, which suffered humiliation of defeat at the hands of Rani Chanama, was enraged and sent bigger armies to capture the state of Kittur. As an outcome, this time the sub-collector of Solapur, Mr. Munro, was killed. Rani Chanama fought fiercely with the aid of her commander Sangoli Rayanna, but this time, due to a number of traitors in her camp, she lost the battle and was ultimately captured and imprisoned by the British at Belhongal Fort. She tried to escape twice due to her indomitable courage and fearlessness, but was recaptured both times and then put in solitary confinement for life by the British. At last, during February 1829, she died in confinement with the dream of a free Kittur in her heart and mind. Her burial place is at Belhongal Taluka, surrounded by a small park. Rani Chanama is still remembered as a freedom fighter and was considered to be a great example who showed to the world that one woman could stand against the might of the British Empire for upholding justice and righteousness. Her legacy and first victory are still commemorated in Kittur during the Kittur Utsav that is held between 22nd to 24th October every year. On 11th September 2007, a statue of Rani Chanama, donated by Kittur Rani Chanama Memorial Committee and sculpted by Vijay Gaur, was unveiled at the Parliament House Complex, New Delhi, by Madam Pratibha Patil, the first woman President of India, in a grand function attended by the then Prime Minister and other dignitaries. There are also statues commemorating her at Bangalore, Belgaum, Kittur and Hubli. Rani Lakshmibhai. She was one of the leading figures of the rebellion of 1857 and became an icon for the nationalists who fought against the British rule. Lakshmibhai was born Manikarnika Thambe at Varanasi in 1828. She lost her mother at the age of 4 and was raised by her father Moropant, who worked as an advisor in the court of Peshwa Bajirao II of Bittur. He supported her in learning horsemanship, archery, self-defense and shooting. In 1842, she got married to Gangadhar Rao Nevalkar, the Maharaja of Jhansi, and got the name of Rani Lakshmibhai. In 1851, she gave birth to a boy, but he could not survive and died after 4 months. Therefore, the couple adopted Rao's cousin's son, Anand Rao, who was later renamed as Damodar Rao. Soon after the adoption, Maharaja died due to an illness in 1853. Rani Lakshmibhai was very young at that time and the East India Company took advantage of the Maharaja's death and applied the principle of Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse. As per this principle, any adopted son of the Indian ruler could not be proclaimed as successor and an agent of the East India Company was posted in the small kingdom to look after the administrative matters. Displeased by the injustice, Rani Lakshmibhai even appealed to a court in London which discarded her case. Therefore, Rani Lakshmibhai, the regent queen of her son, rose up in mutiny in 1857, which broke out in Meerut. She rapidly organized Durga Dal, meaning Women's Army, and assumed charge of the rebels in the Bundelkhand region. Mutineers in the neighboring areas headed towards Jhansi to offer her support, and she was also joined in struggle by others, many of whom were women, including Jalkari Bhai. The East India Company's forces under General Hugh Grose had begun their counter-offensive by January 1858, turning their attention towards Jhansi. Offering stiff resistance to the invading forces, Rani Lakshmibhai did not surrender even after her troops were overwhelmed and escaped from the fort with a small force of palace guards and headed eastwards where other rebels joined her. Lakshmibhai and Tantya Tope, another rebel leader, then mounted a successful assault on the city fortress of Gwalior. The treasury and the arsenal were seized, and Nana Sahib, a prominent leader, was proclaimed as the Peshwa. After taking Gwalior, she marched east to Morar to confront a British counterattack led by Hugh Grose. Dressed as a man, she fought a fierce battle with the British and died on 17 June 1858, martyring her life. Her body was cremated as per her wish, as she did not want it to be captured by the British. Rani Lakshmibhai's tomb is situated in the Phool Bagh area of Gwalior. November 19, the birth anniversary of Rani Lakshmibhai, is celebrated as Martyrs' Day in Jhansi to honor the lives lost in the rebellion of 1857. Statues of Lakshmibhai are seen in many places of India, which show her along with her son tied to her back. Lakshmibhai National University of Physical Education in Gwalior, Lakshmibhai National College of Physical Education in Thiruvananthapuram, Maharani Lakshmibhai Medical College in Jhansi are named after her. The Rani Jhansi Marine National Park is located in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal. A women's unit of the Indian National Army was named as the Rani of Jhansi Regiment. In 1957, 2 postage stamps were issued by the Government of India to commemorate the centenary of the rebellion. Indian representations in novels, poetry and film tend towards an uncomplicated valorization of Rani Lakshmibhai as an individual solely devoted to the cause of Indian independence. The Indian Coast Guard ship ICGS Lakshmibhai has been named after her as well. Jalkari Bhai. She was a woman soldier who was trained in archery and sword play and has played an important role in the Indian Rebellion of 1857. She served in the Durga Dal, that means the Women's Army of Rani Lakshmibhai, and rose to a position of a prominent advisor to the Queen herself. Jalkari Bhai's striking similarity to the Queen helped the Women's Army evolve a military strategy to deceive the British. During the rebellion of 1857, at the height of the siege of Jhansi by General Hugh Grose, Jalkari Bhai disguised herself as the queen and took command of the army, allowing Rani Lakshmibhai to escape safely out of the fort. Jalkari Bhai gave the British quite a shock when she was caught and imprisoned. But later, when the British discovered the impersonation, they released her and she went on to live a long life till 1890. The image of Jalkari Bhai has gained prominence in the recent years, and her birth anniversary is celebrated as Jalkari Bhai Jayanti. Her life, especially her heroism fighting the East India Company Army to protect the Queen of Jhansi, continues to be praised in various Bundelkhand folklores. She has been referred in popular novels such as Jhansi Ki Rani and Mati, published in 1951, and her biography was written first by Bhavani Shankar Visharad in 1964. The Government of India's Post and Telegraph Department has issued a postal stamp depicting her during the year 2001. The President of India unveiled the statue of Jalkari Bhai at Guru Tej Bahadur Complex in Bhopal on 10th November 2017. Juhi. She is the commander of the forces of Rani Lakshmibhai, displaying unique valor and bravery, and she remained with the Rani right up to the end and had left the Jhansi fort with the Rani when the forces of General Sir Hugh Grose had threatened them. Juhi had fired the cannons and absolutely ravaged the British forces. Hugh Grose ordered his soldiers to surround her, and she died fighting in the battlefield of Gwalior. I will see you all in the last part of this video very soon. Thank you very much.
Please like, share and subscribe to this channel.